me? I'm Katrina Koliva. I'm the Chief Executive of ETF, Education Training Foundation, and I'm delighted to be joined this evening by Nerissa Roberts, who I will be interviewing shortly, and Emily Jones from Learning and Work Institute. And this is a webinar where we celebrate adult education, and we discuss what it is like to be to lead teaching excellence in adult education. I will hand over to Emily first to say a bit about the campaign and what we've been celebrating this week and how we came about with the Get the Nation Learning campaign this year, Emily.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Katerina, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Emily Jones, a Deputy Director from Learning and Work Institute, and I'm really pleased to be joining today to recognise one of our Get the Nation Learning Award winners, Nerissa. And thank you very much also to the Education and Training Foundation for organising this webinar and for supporting the campaign and the awards. For those of you who haven't worked with us before, Learning and Work Institute is an independent policy and research organisation focused on lifelong learning and better work. We launched the Get the Nation Learning campaign earlier in May this year to make and win the case for lifelong learning. And this builds on the work that we've done as an organisation for more than 100 years, including more than 30 years of campaigning for more and better learning opportunities for adults. Now, we all know the many benefits of lifelong learning for people, society, and the economy. And we know how important it is for people to continue learning throughout their lives, especially with longer careers and in a fast-changing economy, and that learning can bring wider benefits such as health and well-being and more resilient communities. But despite this, investment and participation in adult learning has declined dramatically in the last decade, with cuts to both public and employer investment in learning, resulting in large inequalities in who accesses learning opportunities. Our annual survey shows that the proportion of adults participating in learning is falling, with just 1 in 5 adults saying that they're currently learning. So we want to change that with the campaign, and we're doing that by working with organisations who wish to add their voice to ours. The campaign is targeted at those who have a role to play in getting the nation learning. So that's local and regional government, it's employers, it's learning providers, crucially, as well as community level organisations and public services. The campaign also acts as a springboard for these organisations to do more to enable people to learn throughout their lives. And since launching in May, more than 130 organisations have joined the campaign by signing our Get the Nation Learning Charter. And that includes a really wide range of organisations like Channel 4, the British Army, National Housing Federation, Combined Authorities, Libraries Connected and Make UK. So I'm not going to go through all 130, but it gives you a flavour of the range of supporters we have signed up. And that, of course, includes lots of learning providers, awarding organisations and sector bodies like the Education and Training Foundation. Now, this week is Get the Nation Learning Week. It's the annual high point for the campaign. And during this week, our community of supporters are taking action to showcase and strengthen their impact on lifelong learning. And we as an organisation have been doing lots of things this week, including publishing new research. And on Tuesday, we hosted our inaugural Get the Nation Learning Awards at the Barbican in London. Now, the awards allow us to show what's possible and what good looks like in adult education. And we were so pleased to celebrate our 11 winners, including Nerissa, who we're hearing from today, who won the Excellence in Teaching Award, which is sponsored by the Education and Training Foundation. And other winners include learners who transformed their lives through learning, as well as employers, housing associations, and of course, learning providers. We also recognised Ed Balls as a lifelong learning ambassador for the learning that he did as an adult at City Lit to overcome a stammer and the work he has done to raise awareness since. and he was proudly showing off his award on Good Morning Britain yesterday morning, if anyone was watching. So I won't take up any more time because it's Nerissa that we want to hear from. But if anyone is interested in finding out more about the campaign, then please do take a look at our website. That's getthenationlearning.org.uk. Please do get in touch if your organisation hasn't yet signed our charter, and do consider nominating for our awards next year. The nominations will be opening in the spring. But thank you again for having me today. Thank you to Nerissa, and thank you to the Education and Training Foundation for all your support for the campaign. Thanks.
Emily, thank you so much for joining us. You've given us an excellent background and framework for our discussion with Nerissa just now. I think that what I really like about the campaign is the strap line: when adults learn, the economy thrives. And I'm so impressed, having been one of the, as ETF, having been one of the supporters and sponsors of the award in Excellence in Teaching this year, but also in previous years, always in that kind of teaching professional development remit. It's really good to see so many organizations signing up this year, supporting, and from, as you explained, from so many and diverse types of organization and remits. So wonderful. But Nerissa, this is all about you now. So I'll get you to introduce yourself first and tell us a bit about you and your background and what really motivates you in your role. And then I have some questions that we've prepared for you in this kind of in-conversation and interview with you. But I also have some questions from the audience that they put to us as our members ahead of today. So over to you, Nerissa. A little bit about you, your role, and what motivates you in your role.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for inviting me here today. Okay, so I'm Nerissa. I've been a head of faculty at Oldham College for 2 years now. But I think most importantly, before that, I was the programme leader for ESOL. And then before that, I was a tutor for ESOL. And I think that my experience from being a tutor, programme leader, and head of faculty has encouraged me to lead in the way that I wanted to be led when I was a tutor. Before I worked in adult education, I actually trained as a secondary school art teacher. So I think that my creativity and my angle of approach kind of comes from my art background. What motivates me? So I remember the first time that I walked into an ESOL class and I was just mesmerised and humbled by what an ESOL learner is. And I think to this day, I carry that with me. So it's the learners that motivate me. It's all about meeting the learners, their determination, their dreams, and trying to break down some of the barriers that a lot of them come to the UK with. A lot of the learners that I've met want to get on in life and want to do well in the UK. Language is a barrier, yes, but I think the biggest barrier for them is confidence and learning how to navigate in the UK. So with that, I think that watching them progress from coming maybe as a pre-entry learner all the way through to, I've had learners go from level 2, level 3 into employment is what motivates me to do my day job.
I love it how you talk about the learners being the motivation, and I'm also impressed by that career journey that you described there in terms of how you started and how, where it started, how it's going.
Yeah.
All the career progression to head of faculty, fantastic. And that creativity that you bring from the arts into ESOL, now into more senior leadership in Oldham. So this is fantastic. Obviously, in adult education, we come across adults from so many different backgrounds, and there is huge diversity in terms of demographics and expertise, backgrounds, but also I'm sure diversity in thinking and cognitive diversity. So I wonder, how do you prioritize inclusion in your role, both in teaching and learning and as a leader now as well?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, as in one class or in one department, I might have learners that are from a village who've never been accessed any education, to learners that have been doctors, lawyers in their own country. So it's so diverse to meet their needs. I think the key to it all is listening to the learners. So I'm really hot on having regular student voice meetings. So as the manager and as the tutors, they need to know, what does the learner need to feel included? I also think that the culture of the department has to be one that's friendly, approachable, that they can see that all the staff are getting on and bonding together, laughing. And if you haven't got that safe, welcoming space for the learners, it's quite easy for them to feel quite isolated. So I think, yeah, understanding their backgrounds is key. Also working quite closely with, if you've got an ALS department or safeguarding department, we also have the luxury, I suppose, of having higher level teaching assistants within the department. So the tutors themselves identify who needs support, and then I will place the teaching assistants with those learners. That helps as well when lots of learners have got undiagnosed learning difficulties. I always encourage the team to, when they're looking at teaching materials, that they really are relevant to the learners, so that they're based with local images. They might have colloquialisms that are only relevant to Oldham and the Oldham accent, and that we get out of the classroom as much as possible. So we learn by doing. I don't like lessons that are just grammar based for months on end, because I think you just learn the language by gaining confidence and getting out there. And that's kind of my approach.
It's fantastic listening to you, how you balance what you describe as your learners that come from 5 minutes from from where you are, from a college, from a village, or a village, as you say, all the way to learners coming from thousands of miles away, and learners that have high kind of achieving professionals in so many different professions, all the way to people that have may have not come to a class for a very, very long time. So it's that kind of very, very interesting background. So you bring them all together. But what we found when we were judging this category, Nerissa, I know as me being the judge for teaching and excellence, what really impressed us in your nomination was how you embedded employability, and how you created not just a safe environment for your learners, but also moved beyond teaching and learning into supporting them to be part of the wider community where they live and work, to also enable them to get into work and to support them to get first-time employment, for some of them for the first time in the UK as well, and for some of them for the first time that they would put themselves out there in English as a foreign language for them. So
Yeah.
I would like you to kind of describe how that was, and what are the tools, methods that you use to support embedding that employability for your learners.
Okay, so I think it starts with making sure that all of your teaching materials, where possible, can link to employability. So that you're always, even at low levels, pre-entry, entry one, that you're always referring to different job roles, that there's no kind of gender bias, that, I am presuming that men and women work as we do in the UK, and that's not opening up that culture, I suppose, to the learners, and for them to understand how life works in the UK. We work very closely with Oldham Council. It's called Get Oldham Working, and what I do is I invite them in to speak to all the different classes. We do CV writing workshops, interview workshops, and the job market workshops. And then after those initial classes, all of the learners are offered one-to-one appointments outside of college to work on their CVs in depth and look for roles that match their skill set from their home country. So that's one of the things we do. Also, another thing I do is I have, there's a company called Action Together, who are a volunteering organisation. They come in, speak about volunteering as for individuals, but sometimes I might get a group of learners to volunteer together on a project. I've found that quite useful when we had a class that was quite a low attending class, and the class weren't really bonding. People were kind of coming in and out and not really bonding together. So I decided to actually target one of the volunteering projects to that class. And after that, the attendance improved because they'd all been outside of the college environment volunteering together. I think as well, all of the, like I mentioned before about the materials, I think that you need to link real life into everything that you're doing as a tutor or in the department. So just things like form filling, how to make an appointment, talking on the phone. We have an adult provision and also a 16 to 18-year-old provision. In the 16 to 18-year-old provision, I actually timetable language for work classes weekly because they're on a study program, so they have more hours. So it's just that whole holistic view, I suppose, of moving learners into work. We also have, for progression, we have classes from pre-entry to level 2 ESOL. But then if you were level 1 or level 2 ESOL, you can then progress onto a bespoke course of community interpreting. And that also runs at level 3. So when you complete the level 3 community interpreting, we have, I've established a relationship with the Northern Care Alliance, the NHS, and they are guaranteed a job interview with the NHS to work as an interpreter for the NHS. And I think the last cohort, there were 14 out of 14 all took work with the NHS after completing. So I think I like the idea of it being real progression, not like aspirational progression.
So I see there, as you talk there, I'm unpacking all the skills and all the development you are doing, all the different kind of roles you're playing in that process. So obviously you are the adult educator, for and foremost. So you use pedagogy, you good quality of teaching and learning. That's your main focus.
Yeah.
But in parallel, you're using very strong engagement, stakeholder skills, where you go and map, okay, who can I work with locally here to support me? And you have anyone from the local authority to NHS to the charities to employability professionals. You almost play that kind of intermediary supporter, mentor, mediator, HR kind of mediator, almost in that kind of, we're going to help you now to move and progress, and even brokering relationships for them and getting them into work directly, as you illustrated there. And then I was thinking of your intercultural skills and competencies, about how do you learning across cultures, because I'm assuming you will have many different cultures, many different languages across your learners. How are you learning from them? How are you learning about their communities, their cultures? How do they bring that in the group, in the classroom? So definitely very much a holistic approach, as you said. And I'm thinking, above all of this, there is I'm sure a great planner in you, a great project management, kind of making sure that everything is in place at the right time, in the right place, within budgets, with the right relationships to kind of move things on. So yeah, there's a lot there, I suppose is
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
there is a
It's
lot there.
beyond,
Yeah.
it's beyond teaching and learning, isn't it, really, in
Yeah.
that role. So final question from me, and then I'll play back some questions from members, from ETF members,
Okay.
and what we heard ahead of this webinar. So my final question is on your professional development. And then obviously you are a member of ETF, you engage with your professional body, with us as the professional body. I know you have QTLS, which is great. And I know you've done one of our leadership programs, and you've told me that one of the ETF leadership programs was one of your best experiences. So I suppose I'd like you to reflect on that, on what is for you good professional development. How important is it for all educators out there? And what is unique about being a professional in this space and focusing on reflective practice and focusing on progressing yourself on an ongoing basis because you are part of a professional community? And how, I suppose, how are you learning from others, and how are you giving back within this membership community of ETF?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I think I find that it's a mix of strengthening my leadership skills so I think you mentioned that I recently attended the Leading from the Middle program that you run, which was honestly life-changing. I thought it was an incredible course. I'm still in touch with my mentor, Everton, who I was assigned to on that course. That really gave me the confidence and the tools to lead as a manager. But I also think that within the department, you need to build a culture of trust, support, and recognize the people in your team. I think that often the best CPD within your team is within the room. And that often if you get a group of educators together and you lean in on the experience of some of your tutors, something as simple as let's all get together and share a starter activity will make the team feel like they've got real life CPD that they can take directly into the classroom. So I think it's about offering CPD to them and to me of all different levels. And I mean, I say yes to anything. I'm just one of those people who loves learning. But I think it's also not missing the time that you have to give your team to reflect and share. And I think that's when CPD is actually at its most relevant, when you can actually take something from something that you've only spent 10 minutes listening to and take it straight into practice.
So peer learning, peer support,
Yeah.
group reflection, so getting
Yeah.
everybody in the room, perhaps deep dive reflection, picking up
Yeah.
a topic area, or
Yeah.
picking up an event, as you say, something that happened in the classroom or happened in a group of tutors all working together, or happened out there in the community, and we want to unpack it and pick it up, or a learner that comes in and gives you an example or something that to focus on, and you have a conversation around it. So it's all of those small things that actually may end up in being big conversations.
Definitely. Yeah.
So it's the formal and informal, I suppose. I suppose the point we're trying to make here is that professional development is not just one static thing around courses and training. I mean, it's a bit of that. It's more about the community, the learning from each other, the what you learn from your learners as well, but also your ongoing reflection. And I suppose I'm assuming you use ETF standards also to reflect as part of that group. So at the moment, I'm just thinking myself, last week I was at our Green Mindset Collective, which is an event where we had about 50 system leaders and professionals that all have, what we all had in common was a passion for green skills. And every single one of us in the room was wearing a complete different hat. So system, FE and skills organizations in all sorts of types and settings. And then practitioners, leaders, researchers. So what is interesting about that kind of event is how do you bring different kind of people and different perspectives in the room, and actually you're learning so much from the room rather than as much probably as you would have done in a kind of formal training setting. So it's both
exactly.
of those,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. I think as well, I think it's all of our resources that we use to teach with are collaborative, but the true collaboration, because we spend a lot of time, we spend weeks on making resources, but what we do is we all come together and say, okay, so the topic's going to be house and home, for example. What have you used in the past that's worked? What hasn't worked? Let's put it all together. Oh, we'll have a bit of that, a bit of that. That's a good part to put there. So it's everybody's own practice, the best of everybody's own practice, and training courses that they've been on, etc., new ideas put together as one. And we've all got to be in agreement that that's what we like and what we will teach. So it's not
Like
from a
that.
textbook, it's our own.
It's very good.
ideas.
It's very co-design kind of approach.
Co-design.
Everybody contributes. Perfect. I'll move us on to some of the questions that ETF members or colleagues of yours across the country would like to hear you talk about. The first one is, what's your advice on being your best? So how do you get to be excellent? How do you get to win that award? You know, how did you get there? And when are you at your best? I know you already told us the learners is what motivates you, but what else got you there, do you think?
I think that you've got to find your passion in teaching. So I know that I've explained that my passion is ESOL learners, but in the past I've taught at like private secondary schools. I've taught with special educational needs in secondary, and you've got to find your audience. And then I think once you've found that and you've found your passion and you put them first, then everything else follows. You've got to be positive. So I say yes to a lot. And I think outside the box. So I've always got a project idea on the go. I'm always thinking, right, what can I do about this or that? And I think that's what makes the provision quite unusual, because it's not just the day-to-day running of the department, it's that and all the other extras. And I think that's what comes together and makes it so successful. I think also you've got to be reflective, and you've got to think, that hasn't worked, that has worked. Careful that other people don't burn out, or that, you know, and also try and get people on board who have the same values or think in the same ways as you, so that they can help you along the way.
Really, really good. And another question we received from members was around neurodiversity and how we have more and more, we experience now adult learners with ADHD and other wider complex, sometimes more complex, sometimes less complex special needs. And I wonder how this may become even more complex, as if you have an additional layer of learners that come from different countries or different backgrounds, and then, you know, how is neurodiversity played in that teaching and learning context, and how you come across situations where it was particularly difficult for you to feel that you were supporting your learners in the best possible way, and what kind of tips would you have for other colleagues in that space?
So yeah, that's true. I think a lot of our learners have got undiagnosed learning difficulties. So I would say one of the things that we do first is support the learner, or support the parents of the learner if they're a young learner, to actually try and get a diagnosis in the UK. Also, we do have a good ALS department, so they will support, but often it's funding that if they haven't got a statement, they can't be supported. So then we will look at things like in the actual classroom, visuals, pace of learning, chunking learning, support with the higher level teaching assistant in the class. Also things like introducing fidget toys for ADHD learners that they might have not seen before or experienced before, and trying to make our teaching as much as possible not just classroom based, sat on a chair. So even if it's part of the lesson might be something out on the corridor like a walking wall, or something within the college grounds, or actually getting out of college. So I'm a real advocate of going on trips, learning through doing. So that actually helps some of the learners with a neurodiversity. It is tricky though. It is tricky. I won't.
Yes, it is. And I'm sure you learn every time something
Yeah.
new.
Yeah.
I'm sure in this space particularly, I'm reflecting that myself in my role. Even I've learned a lot through my colleagues
Yeah.
over the years, and how I would have supported them 10 years ago will not be how I would support them today, thanks to all that learning and probably the openness we have now as a society, and how we have learned more about neurodiversity in the workplace and neurodiversity in teaching and learning. And
Yeah.
by learning ourselves more about it, we have become better at supporting our learners and our colleagues. Because I think there is something about both recognizing that learners may have learning difficulties, but also colleagues may have them as well.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
about ensuring that you keep an eye on both, particularly in your leadership role as well. Next question is about recognizing that we have different types of learning and we teach in different ways as well. So how this is about online, and it's about how do you keep motivation and engage adult learners online. I think I'm assuming that we're getting this question because some of your colleagues find this probably a bit harder to keep them motivated and engaged online. Is there anything different to face, or is there any different challenges?
So we don't run online classes as a rule. We might put work online, but that's different to an online class. So thinking back to lockdown when we're all online,
Yes.
I think it's about breakout rooms, if trying to do engaging polls and quizzes.
Smaller groups as well,
Smaller,
potentially,
yeah,
just
smaller
engaging
groups.
more. Yeah.
And if possible, I would say try and have something face to face and then something online, because I think it's very difficult to build a relationship that's solely online, especially with an ESOL learner.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Social challenges is the next one that came up from other colleagues. So I am pretty sure that throughout your career and in adult education and ESOL in particular, you will have come across social, cultural, complex situations. And you had probably to navigate and I would imagine even negotiate on behalf and support on behalf of your learners. So can you think of an example where this was particularly difficult, and how did you address sociocultural complexities with learners or perhaps their family members?
Yeah. I think I've probably I've experienced a lot of experience like supporting learners with domestic violence, homelessness, everything. And I think it's very hard to not take that with you if you're quite a compassionate person, take it home. So I think vicarious trauma training is quite important for ESOL staff, and actually how we as educators carry the load that our learners offload to us.
And do you have that in your practice, in your not just in the college, but within your colleagues and how you support your colleagues? Or do you have that kind of almost group discussion, again back to
Yeah.
reflective practice and what we were talking about earlier? Do you have that opportunity to share those moments while recognizing that there will be an element of confidentiality, that policies will need to be followed, and particularly in areas that can be very, very difficult in that space? But how do you approach that collegiate support? And
So I
is there
think
any
there's a couple of things.
supervision, any mentoring? How do you go
Yeah.
about it?
We do like trauma-informed training with the safeguarding department. But also I run it's called Mindful Monday. So every month as a team, we do something that's creative together or silly, or it might just be having breakfast together, or we've done art activities. We've done gardening together. So just as a team, instead of having a team meeting once a month on a Monday, we'll just go out and we'll chat obviously about work, but it's just to release that pressure of, I suppose, what we're carrying with us as educators. So that works well. And I think it's supporting not only the students' well-being, but also the staff well-being. And I think that's a big thing that I'm really keen to do. I've set it up already this year, but I want to do last year, but I want to do more of it going forward. I think it really helps just sharing, talking. We have a counselling service as well for staff within the college. So
Mindful Monday is something that you're getting a shout out on the chat.
Yeah,
So I see colleagues really liked it.
Well, it used to be Wellbeing Wednesday, and then we
Yes.
changed the day when our team meetings were, so it's now Mindful Monday.
So you're clearly a very creative person. You already told us that, and obviously it comes slightly by your personality and what you've learned over the years and how you approach your practice. But it also comes obviously from your background in arts, which is so I wanted to hear from you, what would you say is one of the most creative things you've done in either in teaching and learning or in your leadership? Can you think of a moment where you say, "Ooh, creativity has really kicked in here"?
I suppose that, well, I'm thinking we actually had an art exhibition. So with the local gallery, Oldham Gallery, a few years ago, I put on an art exhibition with my friend Sam, who's a colleague, called What Do You Call It? And it was photography images of learners with what they came over to the UK with. So it might be like a lot of learners who came over unaccompanied might just literally have their ID card and that's it, and the clothes on the back. But some other learners had like a special case or the suitcase or
an item. So did that help with storytelling, I would imagine? So that created almost an environment of curiosity and, okay, I want to know more about this. Tell me more here. Tell me your story.
And sharing family photographs of the grandparents and when they were young. And so we all worked together with the learners, and the photographs were exhibited at Oldham Art Gallery. And then there was a preview and an event, and so all the families came. And I think I'm really keen on exposing the learners to their community, to the wider community, because I think that often it's the unknown, and I want to try and break down those barriers of that within Oldham.
So I'll open up now to any of the participants in the webinar. If anyone wanted to either ask a question directly to Nerissa or to reflect on anything you've heard so far that you thought really resonated with you, and to share something from your practice. Anybody like to come in or put anything in the chat or the Q&A? This is your opportunity to do so. Ellie, do we have any questions? Hello.
Thank you for that really, really insightful discussion so far. We do have one question. So Melanie has asked, how do you support level 1 learners or those that are neurodivergent? And we've touched a bit about neurodivergency already, but maybe just kind of the level 1 elements of it.
Okay, so the level 1 and level 2 and level 3, I think it's the same approach. So I think the higher the level you are, the more we can support for them to get a diagnosis or for them to access the provision that we provide as a college. I think it's a lot harder when they're entry level, because there's a language barrier as well. Like, for example, with dyslexia, it's really hard to diagnose when somebody's being diagnosed in their second language. NATECLA, so that's the organisation for ESOL tutors, they do very good training that we've attended and workshops on how to deal with second language learners who we think are neurodivergent. So yeah, same way really. It's not easy, but I think if you've got a tutor or somebody fighting their corner, you can make adaptations along the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It might be a little bit too soon to answer, but we've had a question. How have your students reacted about you receiving this award?
No, it's not too soon. I showed them yesterday. They just said, "Oh, teacher Nerissa."
Teacher
Yeah, they were
Nerissa.
really cool. I think they were like,
extremely proud.
yeah, they were really proud, and they were just, yeah, they were. I think the award is as much for them as it is for me. Yeah, I'm in touch with a lot of students that I've known for 15 years. So when they found out about it, they're really pleased for me. But also, I think it's a win for them as well, and for exposing ESOL more.
Ellie, do we have any more?
I am just having a quick look. I think the others, I think we have mostly answered. So no, I'd say that's all in the chat for now.
Perfect, thank you. And my final then question back to you, Nerissa, is what's next? So obviously you've told us the story about how you started in your leadership now, getting through QTLS and then doing the leadership program with ETF, and then moving forward with your career progression now being head of faculty. What is next for you? Where would you like to go next?
That's a very good question. Ideally, what I think I'd like to do is kind of mix my art more with my ESOL. Now, I haven't really decided how that would work. I think leadership-wise, I'd like to do some more of your ETF courses, because I was blown away by the course that I did attend. I think with the learners themselves, I've got a couple of missions this year, which are to become a College of Sanctuary. I'd like to do some menopause awareness training with ESOL learners, do some workshops with them. I think that'd be quite an interesting thing to do. And just carry on with thinking up my little projects that.
That's fantastic. Sounds like you've got some great, again, very creative ideas there, Nerissa. I'll probably wrap us up here and say that we're all very proud of you. You have huge congratulations from anybody. I see 2 or 3 colleagues in the chat, and how they really loved hearing from you. You're clearly an inspiration. I think everybody now can see why you won this award, particularly as you talked about how passionately you get motivated by your learners, how it's your learners that drive you as a teacher, as a leader, as a tutor, but also how you use your such a breadth of your skill set to engage the community, to engage other organizations within and outside the college, to support your learners to move forward, and that passion that you have in supporting them. And of course, what's next is we look forward to hearing what more art, how you're going to combine art with ESOL and build it into your next leadership journey, which I very much look forward to hearing about, Nerissa. So we're delighted to host you this afternoon, and again, many thanks to Emily who has joined us, and many thanks to ETF colleagues for making this webinar possible. And I know we will be sending this to members, so we will hopefully hear more, and there may be even more reactions to this, Nerissa. So thank you so much. Lovely to see you again, and huge congratulations again.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who joined us to this webinar, and obviously any further engagement you want us to have in this space, I'm sure you will tell us through our usual newsletter and engagement. So thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye for now.